Steelers. Let's keep it trucking with the defensive side of the ball. You spoke to Daniel Jeremiah yesterday. You were on the Giant Zoom call that goes out every year talking about the NFL draft and all the options for different teams. He addressed the Pittsburgh Steelers, labeled their quote-unquote home run hitter when it comes to the first pick or their first pick in the NFL draft, pick number 20. Tell the folks what you learned yesterday.
Yeah, it was funny. Jeremiah, he got asked about the Steelers, and he really got one question about the Steelers, but he said they could go in about 6 different directions. With he named literally every offensive line position except for left tackle because he likes Broderick Jones. As a direction they could go in the NFL draft. He really likes this team and what they did in the draft last year, just getting a little bigger, adding some size, adding some physicality, and he wants them to keep doing that on the defensive side of the ball. He thought Toledo corner Quinyon Mitchell was the, like you said, home run pick for them, which my ears kind of perked up because I didn't even know this guy was going to kind of be in range for them. He is a fast riser. He had a really good Senior Bowl on top of a really good final season in college. So this guy really gets after the ball like Gardner Johnson. He's a ball hawk. He gets a ton of picks. He's always around the ball defending passes. I think he had 19 last season.
19 pass deflections?
Yeah.
Or passes defensed?
Wow. Yeah. It's so it's a ton. Like this guy's a stud. So I was all about it. I think getting another corner that you can just lock down and say this is our guy moving forward, and then you've got two stud corners and 2 young stud corners that you can lean on for the next at least 3 years. I mean, until Joey Porter Jr. has a decision to make about his contract. Like it would be such a luxury to not have to worry about your corner spots moving forward, because it was a little patchwork trying to figure out that other corner spot last year, and I can only imagine having another guy in there that you're just so certain about for the next few years. Like just having corner not be a position that you have to worry about for like 3 years. That would be awesome. So I was all about the Quinyon Mitchell pick. I think it'd be a good move. Just kind of got to hope that he falls there, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess there are a couple corners there that that would go in front of him. Like there's Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'm trying to remember the other names, but like this guy won't be the first name off the board in the corner draft. So I feel like he will kind of be in range for the Steelers. You just kind of got to hope, quite honestly, that doesn't rise anymore, right? Because he's got some positive momentum, and I feel like at the combine he could raise his stock a little bit more, and the Steelers honestly wouldn't really want that because then he kind of lifts out of their range.
I agree. And this is the time of year where guys are flying up the board. But at the same time, especially when I think it comes to the cornerback position, you get those guys that move so quickly up the board that once the draft, there's such a gap between the combine and the actual draft that things start to settle a little bit. And corner is such I want to say an unappealing position that the quarterbacks move, the offensive line. You know what I mean? You go to pro days and you're just like, well, DeJuan Jones was standing around and that guy moved 4 spots up the draft board. Like that's, you get those like real appealing, and corners, it's not an unattractive position, but just compared to other positions and how deep the class is, I think that could help. But I agree. Like this is the time of year where this guy post combine, this guy runs a 4 whatever. You are immediately thinking, yeah, he might not be in the Steelers. Right? I mean, that was the Joey Porter Jr. thing. At that point, you were thinking, is Joey even going to be around for the Steelers, or is he? At one point, people were talking like, is Julian Brents going to be the top corner option for the Steelers once they come around? And
he was like a 3rd rounder, right? Like
that's what I'm saying. Everything shakes out differently. The combine is everybody spikes, and then corners it's a position that settles, which is good. But I agree with you. Mitchell's a stud. I heard nothing but great things about the Senior Bowl. I mean, Nick Martin talked about him every single day. He was the star that shined brightest down in Mobile. I agree with you when it comes to the cornerback position, especially in the AFC today. When you are going against Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and all these guys constantly. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a guy on the rise. CJ Stroud is a guy on the rise. Like when you have to go against all these guys all the time, to have a secondary, I mean, it's just a game changer. Like it's you no longer win through, can TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith get to the quarterback fast enough? You give them plenty of time to get to the quarterback because you now have corners who could shut these guys down and make plays and force turnovers. I mean, how many times did we hear last year where Mike Tomlin would come to a press conference on Tuesday and say, we didn't turn the ball over enough. You
Yeah.
get those corners, you now get the turn. Like it's a total game changer. I think it's like an offensive lineman would be great, but I would feel a lot more comfortable if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers plugging Dan Moore in at left tackle and say, okay, cool. Or Spencer Anderson at right tackle, if that's how you're feeling at the end of it, and keeping the offensive lineman that you have right now, then starting Joey Porter Jr. and somebody that you're on at corner. If you could have star corners, that's the way to go.
Right. I mean, it's like the marginal difference between starting Dan Moore versus Levi Wallace.
Exactly.
And I think Dan Moore is a much more reliable. I guess he would be playing right tackle, right? Yeah.
I don't think he could play right tackle. He tried last year, but I think it'd be Broderick still at right, Dan at left. If it's Spencer, I think it's Broderick at left, Spencer at right.
Either way, I think Dan is a much more reliable starting tackle than Levi Wallace is a starting cornerback on either side. So to that end, I feel like the cornerback, if you're talking about what's a more urgent need, I feel like it's corner. And so that's why, I mean, Mitchell feels like home run, slam dunk, whatever words you want to use. Like I'm all in on getting Quinion Mitchell. I think this guy's not only a good player, but addresses probably the biggest need that they have in this draft outside of center, probably. But I at this point, like the Steelers draft pick, I feel like picking at 20 is so interesting just because they can go, like Jeremiah said, they could draft every offensive lineman. They could go with a corner. They could go, I don't know, a million different directions. They have a ton of stuff that they could play around with, but I feel like corner is still kind of the most urgent need. So addressing that right away, that's a good move in my book.
I agree. Would you consider making a move for a corner? Would you consider if Quinion Mitchell was there at 17? Would you consider, is he a guy that you would move? Compensation is
right.
Not what is reliable. It's decent. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely would. Like you said, like moving up 3 spots isn't gonna crush you. So I would absolutely move up 2 spots. I mean, if you're giving up like a future day 3 pick or something like that, like who cares? Like I'm doing that all day. And it's just, I mean, it seems like the corner, like where's Kool-Aid McKinstry gonna go? Like there's some questions I feel like about where all these corners are gonna go. But if it comes down to draft day and it's okay, we gotta give up this, future 5th round pick or go without our potential corner of the future, I know which one I'm giving up really easily. That's not a problem at all for me.
I agree. I'm moving. I'm feeling good about it, especially if it's like there's a lot of corners in the first round that I'm like, okay, good, good corner, I guess. But that's how it was last year. That's how it was with the guys like Emmanuel Forbes or I don't know, Clark Phillips was up there. He fell, but Julius Brents was one of them. Like we were talking about, great corner, lot of potential, very interesting. Not a game,
pick.
Right. Yeah, like not the guy that you're kind of taking a risk there. And I think that there are a lot of corners in this draft that you're just like, all right, good pick. Could have been better. You were looking for a little bit more of a oh my gosh type of pick at pick 20, especially with the limited needs that the Steelers have. I think Mitchell's that dude. Plus he's a MAC football guy. He's
right. It's been good to the Steelers before.
That's what I'm saying. Mike Tomlin is, that's his gist. You a MAC football guy. I bet you that Mike Tomlin has somehow already told this guy, hey, you on the board. You're coming to Pittsburgh. I'm sure everybody on the Toledo coaching staff has been like, hey, if you're on the board, you're going to Pittsburgh. I'm just letting you know you're going to Pittsburgh. That's all they do is pick MAC guys. And they work out almost every single time. So Mitchell would be a dude. That would be awesome. I think he's definitely. Is he your top guy to watch the combine? Like, is he your top? Like, is he the guy you got your eyes on more than anybody, or is there anybody else?
I mean, probably, yeah. Like, because I'm just interested about how high he goes up. I feel like he's gonna test really well. Like he's gonna jump out of the building. He's gonna run real fast. He's a pretty athletic guy. So I think there's only room for him to go up. I mean, it's kind of silly when you like when we went to the combine last year. It's like, oh, this guy that we already knew was fast ran without pads on.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden fast. He goes up. He goes from a day 2 pick to a first rounder. Like, doesn't really make sense. But So it'll always correct itself. But I'm curious how high he can rise.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. Like I said, the combine's a weird deal. Like I think the Senior Bowl should be most indicative of like who he is as a player because they actually have pads on. He's going against his peers, kind of in live action, and I just wonder if that momentum's gonna keep up, or if I'm just interested to see how the combine affects, especially Mitchell's stock. I think that'll be interesting.
I think that they should, instead of running, and like testing this, which I get, like there's something behind all that, and I understand it, but I feel like that stuff fades. So like you could either really hurt yourself or it means absolutely nothing. Like Kalijah Cansey ran out of the building last year, and immediately everybody's like, this dude could be a top 10 pick. He didn't. He wasn't. Like he immediately, like after a week, it was like, oh, okay. Well, realistically, when it comes to actual football, this is where Kalijah Cansey sits. And that's what happens to everybody. Like you run out of the building and you're just like, oh my gosh, first pick in the draft. This guy's the first pick in the draft. And then it settles and it's like, okay, never mind. Let's go back to where we were. If you're slow, it kills you. But
right.
That's the other. I think you should like, instead of that, they should just play like, I don't know, just like just play 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Like let's see what happens when you just put the best guys in the nation up against each other and just say, all right, here, no tackle.
It would be more entertaining for sure.
I think that's going to tell you a lot more than running a 40. And maybe there's going to be a lot of people that are like, no way. But I just think once the dust settles, it does absolutely nothing except for hurt you sometimes. But
right.
doesn't usually help you. All right, last thing I want to talk about here.